Gunshots explode through a narrow hallway. Glass shatters. Men drop to the floor. Heavy footsteps move slowly through the smoke. No panic, no hesitation. Just a man in a black suit walking forward with quiet precision. His breathing is calm. His eyes are cold. The bodies on the ground tell the story before anyone speaks. A man at the end of the corridor whispers with fear in his voice, asking if that really is him. Another man looks at the destruction and answers quietly. He says it isn't just a man, it's John Wick. And suddenly, something strange happens. Every armed man in the room freezes. No one rushes forward. No one tries to be brave. Because respect sometimes arrives before a person even says a word. It arrives through reputation. But this story does not start with gunshots. It starts with silence. A quiet house. A grieving man sitting alone on the floor beside an empty bed. For years, the world only knew John Wick as a myth, a legend whispered about in the criminal underworld. But before the violence, before the fear attached to his name, he was simply a man who loved someone deeply. His wife, Helen, was the one person who brought peace into a life that had been filled with violence for years. For the first time, the most feared assassin in the underworld made a decision that shocked everyone around him. He chose to stop. He walked away from the life that had built his reputation. He buried the weapons. He closed the door on the past. He tried to live quietly, like a normal human being. Then life delivered its cruelest moment. Helen died slowly from illness. The house that once held warmth and laughter became painfully quiet. Grief filled every room. The most feared man in the criminal world suddenly had nothing left except memories and silence. But before she died, Helen left him one final gift. A small puppy arrived at his door with a note written in her handwriting. She hoped the dog would help him remember how to love again and help him survive the loneliness that would come after she was gone. For a brief moment, the darkness inside John Wick softened. The puppy became more than a pet. It became the last connection to hope in his life. Then one night, everything changed. A group of criminals forced their way into his home. They beat him on the floor of his own house while he struggled to breathe. They stole his car, and before leaving, they killed the puppy that had been left as Helen's final gift. For them, it was meaningless violence, just cruelty. But psychologically, they had just done something far more dangerous than they could imagine. They didn't just hurt a man. They destroyed the final emotional thread keeping John Wick connected to peace. The next morning, the house was silent again. John Wick slowly walked into his garage. He stood over the concrete floor and stared at it for several seconds. Then he picked up a sledgehammer. Each strike shattered the concrete and released dust into the air. Piece by piece, the hidden life beneath the floor began to appear. Weapons, gold coins, bulletproof suits, tools from a world he had tried to escape forever. The moment he picked up the first pistol, something inside him returned. The grieving husband disappeared. The legend stepped back into the world. Across the city, the criminal underworld began hearing whispers that John Wick was moving again. One powerful crime boss discovered that his own son had been responsible for the attack on John Wick's home. He didn't scream or panic. Instead, he struck his son across the face and spoke quietly. He explained that the man they had just provoked was not just an assassin. He was the one people send to kill the boogeyman. Years of flawless work had built John Wick's reputation into something almost mythical. Hundreds of completed missions, impossible survival, absolute efficiency. In psychology, reputation like this becomes something powerful called status memory. People react emotionally before they even think logically. Fear arrives before conversation. That is the moment respect becomes automatic. Every step John Wick takes after returning to the underworld reinforces that reputation. He never threatens people. He rarely raises his voice. He simply acts with precision and certainty. The human brain reads this behavior instantly. Confidence without noise, violence without chaos, discipline without hesitation. These signals create dominance in social psychology. People respect individuals who control their environment and show absolute certainty about their actions. One moment during his return becomes legendary. Inside a crowded nightclub, music shakes the walls while water rains down from the ceiling like a storm. Dozens of armed men wait for him, but John Wick moves through the chaos calmly, reloading his weapon with mechanical precision. Every movement is controlled. Every shot is deliberate. The noise of the club mixes with the sound of gunfire as bodies fall around him. This moment transforms him completely in the eyes of the underworld. He is no longer seen as a man seeking revenge. He becomes something unstoppable. And when the world begins to believe someone cannot be stopped, respect follows automatically. But every legend hides a weakness. For John Wick, it was never violence. It was love. Love once pulled him out of the darkness. Grief dragged him back into it. When the revenge finally ends and the enemies are gone, the silence returns once again. There are no more gunshots, no more enemies waiting in the shadows. Only exhaustion. Only the quiet realization that fear can create respect, but it cannot heal loss. In the final quiet moments of his journey, John Wick walks slowly along a river with the weight of everything he has done resting heavily on his shoulders. The world fears him. His reputation has become unstoppable. But deep inside, he is still the same man who once sat alone on the floor of his house, grieving the loss of the only person who ever brought peace into his life. And that is the final psychological truth hidden inside his story. Respect is never truly about violence, power, or fear. It is about identity. John Wick never walked into a room asking people to respect him. He became someone the world could not ignore. His discipline, his consistency, and his refusal to break created gravity around his presence. People reacted to that gravity automatically. The deeper lesson is simple but powerful. Respect begins the moment a person stops abandoning who they are just to please others. The moment actions become consistent. The moment the world clearly understands what kind of person stands in front of them. John Wick never needed to explain himself. His behavior spoke loudly enough. And when someone's identity becomes that clear, respect is no longer something they have to request. It becomes the natural reaction of everyone around them.